When ships sank, jungle patrols crossed rivers and rafts drifted for days. One tiny object became priceless, a match that would still light after getting soaked. During World War II, sailors, raiders, and scouts didn't wait for miracle tech. They used simple chemistry and fieldcraft to make ordinary matches survive water, wind, and sea spray. The trick wasn't secret science, it was pragmatic modification, storage, and a sheltered strike technique that let men start fires when everything else had failed. Below is the historical background, the safe, practical way soldiers reproduce the effect in the field, and how you can recreate the method today without hazardous chemistry. A match that won't light in a storm is useless. In naval and amphibious operations, lifeboat kits included matches so treated they would ignite in rain and even while partially submerged. Downed air crews and boat crews used wax-sealed match tins as an absolute last line of survival. Warmth, boiling water, sterilizing instruments, and signaling. On land, patrols crossing wet jungle or snowy passes needed reliable ignition to dry clothes and prevent hypothermia. The Allied and Axis forces converged on the same basic solution: keep the combustible materials sealed and protect the ignition surface until the moment of use. First, one important clarification. World War II field tech relied on modifying existing commercial matches, or packing specially produced storm matches, not on amateur chemistry to remake match heads. Never experiment with match head formulas or phosphorus compounds. That's dangerous and unnecessary. The field trick used non-reactive sealants and packing, plus a sheltered striking method. Here's how it worked and how you can reproduce it safely. Start with commercially produced safety or storm matches. Strike-on box or striker sticks are fine. The goal is to keep the head dry and to allow ignition in a sheltered microenvironment. Okay, let's get your matches and container ready. You'll want to use fresh matches in a sturdy metal tin. Film canisters or old cigarette tins are actually pretty common options, just for reference. Line the inside of the tin with a small piece of cloth or paper, to keep the matches from rubbing against each other. And if you're planning to store them for a while, toss in a little desiccant like rice or silica gel to help keep things dry. Now, it's time to seal the heads in wax. Go ahead and melt some paraffin. Cooking-grade candle wax or even fireplace wax will work fine, in a pot you use just for this purpose. Hold each match by the shaft and dip the head into the melted wax for just a moment, then pull it out, and let the extra wax drip off. This creates a thin, waterproof shell around the match head. You really don't need to coat the whole head thickly. Just a light, even dip is enough. Make sure to let the wax cool and harden all the way before you store your matches. Oh, and for a little historical context, sailors used to dip whole batches of matches and stack them upright in wax tins so the wax covered all the heads evenly. If you're looking for an even tougher, longer-lasting seal, you can brush on a thin coat of clear shellac or a commercial clear lacquer right over the wax. This makes the coating more durable and helps protect it from being scratched up. Just apply it sparingly and let everything dry in a dust-free spot. And by the way, if you go with shellac, make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area and always follow the manufacturer's safety instructions. For striker-on-box matches, it's really important to preserve a pristine striker by wrapping unused boxes in oilcloth or wax paper. If the striker gets wet or clogged, it just won't create the friction required. Soldiers, often carried an extra dry striking surface. Maybe a thin piece of sandpaper or a small strip of cardboard kept in a waterproof sleeve. Tins with gasket seals or small screw-top containers were, honestly, pretty popular in lifeboat kits, so you'd want to wrap the match bundle in a waxed cloth or paraffin-impregnated paper. Place the desiccant inside, and then screw on the lid. Just remember to store it in a dry, cool place and inspect it occasionally. Even waxed heads can be difficult to light while splashed or in waves. The real wartime genius, though, was how they struck matches when the environment was hostile. Create a tiny air pocket and a shielded strike zone. use a small waterproof cup or metal liner. An PET tin or small can. Place a bit of dry tinder inside, like lint, waxed cotton, or char cloth, and keep it close enough to the rim so it can catch a flame. Underwater or in heavy spray, tip the cup so that a pocket of air stays inside the rim. Strike the wax-dipped match inside that pocket and quickly introduce it to the tinder. The air pocket protects the ignition moment from splashes and lets the match reach full combustion before exposure to water. So, in lifeboat practice, sailors would actually place matches inside a small glass vial with a cork, and they'd pre-position some tinder right inside the cork area. When you open it up, you create this little micro-environment, strike the match in that tiny dry chamber and then use the flame right away. It's not magic, it's just microclimate management. You protect the ignition just long enough for the match to burn bright and light your fuel. Soldiers sometimes used a shallow metal cup with small holes as both a windbreak and a striker holder. The cup would catch and direct the flame to the tinder, while also preventing any direct spray. The World War II approach is, honestly, pretty robust because it sidesteps all that complex chemistry. What you're really doing is protecting the vulnerable match head from moisture until you can deliver flame into a protected tinder pocket. For campers, mariners, and survivalists, the same principles totally apply. Wax dip your matches, keep a clean striking surface, store them in a waterproof tin with a desiccant, and make sure you practice those sheltered strikes. This method doesn't require any hazardous reagents, and it preserves match integrity for, like, months or even years. Lifeboat manuals of the period often included 2 or 3 wax-sealed storm matches and instructions to always keep them in an inner belt pouch. Commandos and raiders used wax-dipped matches in sealed tubes inside their dry bags. The repeated lesson in oral histories is the same, every time. Treat your ignition as mission-critical gear and protect it accordingly. Do not attempt to reconstruct match head chemistry. Instead, use modern safety matches and those waterproofing measures described above. Practice your sheltered strike technique at home before you ever have to depend on it in the field. With just a few wax dips, a good tin, and a sheltered strike method, you can recreate the exact reliable ignition that kept soldiers warm, alive, and moving during the worst storms of World War II. If you found this practical recovery of wartime fieldcraft useful, go ahead and subscribe to Strange History for more tested survival techniques and forgotten military hacks. And hey, share this with a fellow history buff or prepper, because it's one of those small skills that becomes invaluable fast.